Okay, I'm back with the 747 Space Shuttle. Again, earlier video I said Space Shuttle was done. The debate now is this. I have here the engine cover. Let's zoom in just a little bit because you guys are more interested in this than me, my ugly mug. We have the Space Shuttle cover right here for the engines. The aerodynamic cover so it doesn't create so much drag the 747 can't carry it. When that's on, you won't be able to see the engine bells. I haven't put the engine bells on yet because I want to spray paint first. Engine bells second. This, when you put it on there, doesn't stay on its own. You know, again, I didn't pay much money for this kit, but I don't like the engineering of this kit at all. This is not a good kit in my opinion. Way too close in on my face. There we go. This is not a good kit in my opinion. It was cheap, so you know I kind of expected some trouble with it. I've actually had less trouble with it than I expected. Just realized I got to do a little bit of sanding on the wings of the Space Shuttle before I paint it. Because it's a teeny bit rough around the edges, but that'll go very quickly. Now, if I was Model Man Tom, I'd get out some magnets figure out how to magnet that sucker on so I can pull it on and off. I might do so, but since it's so small, it would be a major challenge to get that to work. I'm just thinking I'm going to glue it on and be done with it. That's what I'm thinking. Just going to glue that on there and be done with it. Because, again, this thing is so small, I don't see how I could get some magnets on there to hold it. Not without doing some major cheating. Now, if this was a much larger scale kit, definitely would do it. But again, I'm just going to glue that on. We're not going to see the engine bells. A little bit of sanding and that's ready for paint. 747. This little sucker has stalled me out. There's about 4 hours worth of work in this thing. First, let me check the instructions. I meant to do this before I start recording this video. First thing that got me angry, yeah. Okay, right here when you look at the instructions, okay? It looks to me like you put the windshield in and then glue the halves together right there. Although it's not very clear, so it could be taken either way. I did that. And it was a pain because there's no registry pin to hold that windshield in. And I glued it together. Started sanding to get this edge smoothed out, which is pretty close to done, by the way. And the windshield fell out. And I'm like, what the hell is this? So I started trying to glue it back in from the inside because the opening for the wings, I can push it up in there, and I got it in place once, and then started looking at it going, I'm just going to craze the heck out of that. Not that you can tell from this windshield whether it would be crazed or not, because it is so dang opaque to begin with. Okay? You wouldn't even know if I messed up and crazed it. Now, then tonight, I decided, what the heck, I tried sticking it in the front way and it went right in perfectly. Now, the directions don't show that, so anyone who buys the Academy 747 with Space Shuttle kit, put the body halves together, then put the glass in. You can do that. That's actually better for painting and whatnot. I've already glued it in, but I used micro crystal clear, so I can pull it out if I need to, because that stuff holds, but not incredibly well. Now, my second biggest beef with this kit, you know, didn't have the problem with the Space Shuttle. Space Shuttle went together, you know, like in 10 minutes. No real nasty seams to deal with. I got one spot that worried me a little bit. Putting a little glue on there and squeezing it together, fix that. Space Shuttle, done for the most part. Just needs paint. This guy, this seam line, sucked. Yeah, it sucked real bad. I have spent a good 4 or 5 hours just sanding that seam line. It seems to like to focus on my mouse, so let's put this where the mouse is. Yes, I spent 4 or 5 hours sanding that seam line. There's bright silver paint on there because the silver paint lets me see the details better. It still needs a teeny bit of work, but not like it did. Fortunately, the old use a strong glue trick and squeeze it together worked for most of this. So there's no seam filling, just sanding down and rescoring. Okay, so I just put on, I didn't use Tamiya extra thin, I just used plain old regular Tamiya cement and squeezed the model together really well to get an extra bead of glue squirting out, not glue, actual plastics beading up on the seam line, and then I sanded it down. There are some spots I'm going to have to do some seam filler there and a little bit of seam filler along the underside. For the most part, that seam is almost gone. And once I get it gone, I'm going to do some panel scoring. I'll show you some panel scoring. And when I get to that, but there's just going to be a little bit of panel scoring. I actually thought about getting rid of the panels on this model completely, simply because the photos I have of the actual 747 don't show any of these panels. So I don't know where they got them from. And it makes sense that they would try to remove as many of these panels as possible on a commercial aircraft, because each panel line produces drag, and drag cuts down on fuel. So they're going to want as many of these panels as possible gone. Now the tail, I will leave those because I know those show up in real jet aircraft. But the panel lines along the body, well, I'll just rescore them to keep the spirit of the kit. And I don't really have to do too much of that. I've been pretty careful with my sanding. Alright, that's the update on this one. Next time you see it, I should have the wings put together. The wings are put together. I should have the wings glued on here and the tail fins glued on, and hopefully have this thing ready for paint. Because painting is what this one's about, not putting it together, because I have to do some masking on this one. Okay? Now I've got a new trick for the painting using masking that someone showed me recently. I'll share it when we get there. Have a good one. Until the next segment.
Okay, I started working on the space shuttle, and I mixed up some paint, and like a dumb butt, I did not pay attention to how much paint versus thinner I was using, and got too much thinner in it. Subconsciously I knew, because there was this little voice saying, don't do it, don't do it. I did it anyhow. And this isn't, damaged or nothing. It'll come off with a little bit of sanding. I'm going to let her dry and then lightly sand the heavy spots and then remix the paint properly. Just wanted to show everyone what happens when you don't mix your paint properly. Get it too thin and it does this. Alright, back with an update later.